Hello there folks, this is Ferengi on board. Welcome to my YouTube channel, a place where I present different ideas through videos, ideas that convey spirituality, introspection, dream interpretation and other topics that people may find hard to come up with answers for. And well, through my introspection of at least 15 years of experience, I am willing to provide some of the answers that I have come up with through my introspections, through my guidance from the universe, as well as through the sources that I have been reading and listening to for quite a long time. And well, I can say I've literally seen hundreds of documentaries of my life, and well, I can say that the opinions and ideas that I bring may be at least valid for some people. Now, the truth is something that, it won't resonate the same for everyone because everyone is here to experience their own truths. Now, the concept that I'm willing to talk about today is the so-called matrix. Everyone has probably or definitely heard about this, and especially the movie. And regarding the matrix, it's been a structure that has left many people feel a bit awkward or strange or whatever. And the question that comes is, how was the matrix created? Well, this actually can go quite deep, and as usual, I'm not interested in providing too much introspection because I would, ruin it for other people. But let's get it on. So the matrix is just a concept that we have created as humans. We have called it the matrix because it sounds mechanized. And the purpose of the matrix is to present the facts of, an idea that crossed my mind when I was in the 6th grade. And that was probably one of my mini enlightenment periods in life, or the Meiji era, as I can say for me, as I've had a few ideas back then, and it all became silent afterwards. Most likely I had to go through different shifts. But now looking behind, then at that 6th grade's moment, I actually had, I can't call it necessarily an epiphany, but while I was watching the ceiling in my bed, the idea that crossed my mind was that life is just like a video game. And I was quite experienced with video games even back then. Now the point is, life is indeed like a video game, I thought, and I kind of ditched the idea in time, but it seems that everything else in time simply aligned itself to prove this opinion, even if I disproved it quite, not necessarily violently, but I disproved it throughout time. It just came back and back, and like nowadays when I'm seeing so many people waking up and making videos about, hey, like this is this and this is that, and life is a simulation and such. It's like, dude, I was thinking about these things when I was like so young. These documentaries and people talking that I see today, they're nothing else than confirmations of what was back then. People start looking at black holes as something completely different than what we initially thought, and well, in the scientific communities they are still gonna be accepted as those points in space that are made of plasma or whatever. I told myself a long time ago, black holes are simply nothing. It's just simple force. It's just simple nothingness. Of course, there is no matter in there, but there is simple nothingness. And they are bearers of the truth, because this reality, a virtual reality, let's say, it's actually one of the many that we actually calibrate ourselves to. When we go to bed and we dream, those dreams are nothing else than, let's call it a proof of us wandering through different other worlds. Some people call it waking up to different worlds, but I call it more like, hey, you know what? This is actually you going through other worlds. Actually, each and every dream can be experiencing a whole different life. You can actually live a whole life while you are asleep, because time is only a variable concept. It is an existing concept, you have to understand. And it is a variable concept because it differs a lot with the idea of race, and I'm speaking about animal races, and it differs a lot with perception because each animal race has its own perception and they all have their own limitation in life, right? Life as a process creates these possibilities for beings, okay, for facets of itself to incarnate, okay, in this world, incarnate in other worlds, acquire different other shapes, be they elemental or whatever, and experience through that in its name. And there is always a timed experience because you can only damage yourself enough through a single existence. That is why, in its generosity, life always puts every memory that is acquired in each and every experience into a separate place within that being, that facet of consciousness, so that every time it starts a new life, they don't remember anything else. It's like you're joining each and every other game that you're playing, and every time you're joining one, there is a point. You forget literally everything about those, and let's be honest now, to a certain extent, you're actually doing that. You're forgetting like literally everything else. Because even video games are a different way of life. They are a way of experiencing life, and virtual reality is nothing else than another proof of this. Of course, many will say that it is fake and life has to be experienced in here. Life is to be experienced in each and every corner that it is possible to be experienced, in every possible dimension of it. Even if it is only physical like this one, cybernetic like virtual reality or any other dimension. So, virtual reality is a way of experiencing life. Now, this life on this planet is way too beautiful to simply waste it. Well, actually, let's not call it wasted, but spend too much of it in virtual reality. Virtual reality in the end is nothing else than another major distraction. Oh, if you're using virtual reality as a way to expand yourself, well, that is something not to be condemned. But unfortunately, most people are doing what I call drug activities. Now, these drug activities are things that people do so that they simply run away from their responsibilities and run away from the shit that they call their life. And the funny thing is, they kind of identify themselves so much with this point called life, okay? And life as is, the point is, well, life as is has its own points, yes, but life has to be experienced, okay? Life has to be experienced indeed. Now, when you experience life, the point is to experience life, there are a lot of things, and to go through all possible dimensions requires more than one single life, okay? And as you are moving through different dimensions of existence, because your awareness, your vibration, okay, you have a core vibration. This core vibration dictates usually and mostly how you will perceive life. What impacts you in life and how you react to those things also dictates your physical vibration, let's say, and the vibration and the things that your mind will actually attune itself to. And you have to understand that identity is one of the most dangerous things, because identity is something that people create, and through that creation there are parts within them, within the mind, the conscious mind, that will actually die in order to protect that. That is why you will see people clinging so desperately to their beliefs, to their ideas. And let's not forget that belief means accepting something without even fighting against it, without even requesting a proof. Okay? So it is actually a very different thing. Meaning is something like a self-destruction button. I think I actually made a video upon that. Feel free to view it if you want. Now, the point of Matrix is, the Matrix is nothing else that we have created in our own mind. Now, the point of escaping the Matrix, well, the Matrix is something that indeed we have created in our mind, but it is nothing else than the potential for our own selves to trap ourselves within our own powers. Because until we realize the potential that we have inside of us, okay, we have to break through all the illusions that we have been building around us. And in my previous video about loving yourself, I presented life and the journey of a facet of consciousness, or what I called through the name of my video game, a journey through consciousness. The point is that facet of consciousness, once it starts, it actually gets the purpose is to get more and more thickened in the what I could call karmic mud or karmic earth. And the more it is accumulated, it becomes more and more pressuring. And we are beings of carbon. And if you put carbon at so great pressures, you get diamonds in time, right? At the right pressures and for the respective time frame, you do get diamonds in the end. So everyone in a way is nothing else than diamonds being forged in, let's say, the furnaces of life. And well, I'm thankful to the universe for having received this poetical way of saying things, but okay. So the matrix is, let's call it, the prison of the mind, and most people will go haywire and say, hey, you know what, there is these archons and there are these parasitic beings, these inorganic beings that are creating the matrix. No, this is something that's what I call fabulation. People have been fabricating this and people have been nurturing this because, you see, untrained minds are very easy to go haywire, because imagination that is not gone through, imagination that is not tamed, let's say, it is very easy to lose control of. That is why, for example, let's call them stupid people, or people with very small perception, okay, they will always be the first to see things. If you speak to them about things that they never heard or never knew about but you explain them in such a way that they can actually understand, okay, the only way they will understand it is that it makes sense to their logical minds. They don't understand anything that would be beyond, but at the same time their untamed imagination simply goes haywire and they already imagine everything. It's not that they imagine, they almost see it in front of them. That's how powerful it can actually be. Harnessing such power can actually be very useful. Now the point about imagination, people who have trained imagination, they can actually harness its power in different ways. And each and everyone in the end is more like a prisoner of their own imagination, because everything is kind of imagination. If people don't know what to do with something, they simply let imagination loose. It's simply what actually happens. Take for example religion and creation. No one of us knows simply how to define creation, and like, I'm referring as a deep diver, a deeply introspective person. I'm not talking about the aspect of something like how to call it. I kind of forgot my idea. It kind of happens. Most likely it means that it wasn't probably too important. So, okay. The point is, we have been creating all sorts of concepts and we have been toying and playing with them. And just like creation, for example, but we kind of don't know what creation is, and we can't define creation in its complexity and its entirety, like outside of a dictionary definition. But through religion, we know how the creator looks like, and we also know their name, and we also know that they created us, and they created us directly. And this kind of definitely sounds like a fully narcissistic plot, because come on, like, the creator of the whole universe looks specifically like us, and most likely through religion we are the only ones in this universe. And I mean, come on, can that be more narcissistic? I mean, really. To any animal, if we take into account this, to any animal, the point is, if they would imagine the creator, they would obviously imagine the creator as something, let's say, bigger than themselves, but something that looks like themselves, because animals in a way are their ultimate awareness, okay? They know their own self, and they are just like critters in a video game. They have a simple coding that allows them to exist, and that is the case of a lot of people. They are just, well, people call them bots, but this sounds a bit aggressive, so I call them NPCs. Now these NPCs have a single purpose. The players, the people who are really awake and starting to wake up, the players join the game. and it is the purpose of NPCs to remind the players of their authenticity. The point is, many of the authentic, well, inauthentic people actually, because people who wake up are inauthentic, and I will explain why. The point is, these people, okay, these NPCs, you cannot wake them up because for their own awareness and for the life purpose that they have, which is to help you wake up, they are fully authentic. They are fully authentic. Even if they cheat, they lie, they do literally everything that's theoretically or practically bad, they are like those NPCs in a game that only know 2 or 3 things and they just repeat them. Like, I can always and will always remember a funny situation in Gothic 1. In the old camp, there is an NPC by the south gate, and the only thing it was coded to do is it eats something almost near the gate, and, well, by the way that leads upwards to the gate, and then it goes by the wall and takes a piss. And then it comes back and eats again, and then it goes back to the wall and takes a piss. Okay? That's how most people are. They have a few things that they know. And the point is, if you poke at them, it's just like you talk to an NPC. They will throw you a few random quotes. In this reality's case, they will throw at you some random nastiness, most likely. Because these people are already original. That is their coding. The moment you have a code and you follow that code, you are original. But people who wake up have to go through so many illusions and traumas, and literally they have to do all sorts of things. And, you always doubt yourself, you always do all sorts of things, and in the end, it's the point that you are not authentic. And the point of these authentic people is to actually help you. By, being parasitic to you, by doing literally everything that would indirectly remind you of who and what you are. Because the point of this is to realize by your own self. You are here to experience as a player your own truths, and the truths can never be taught, the truths can never be shared, okay? That makes you kind of a tyrant, because when you share truths, you either are some kind of truth speaker, right, and you let people understand that truth and, gorge it for themselves and nom 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 on it, right, on their own accord, and understand it to their own level and to their own necessity. And there are those people who inflict their truth upon others, and that is kind of not a good thing to do. Because inflicting meaning on others and labeling things is nothing else than a limitation. It is just a limitation. You are reducing the vastness of the possibilities to just one single sense. Sense that is in the end irrelevant, because, you see, the point is, we're playing just control with our own minds, and, we are like slapping ourselves on our butt cheeks, and, it's like we're also enjoying that, right? What we are doing is we are creating meaning, and then we have the impression that we actually control the world and the universe just because we got to know this meaning which we ourselves created through time, and we kind of have also forgotten what this meaning actually means, because most of the words are used in a way that you don't know they do impact you subconsciously, and English is a very occult language that has a lot of things that have been built as constructs to help people later on develop their awareness. Now, what I call a construct in occult language is something that you build, and, well, it's not only in languages, it's in any other way. It's something that is built so that it has a purpose for a later on time. It's not something that you build so that you use now, like you build a car now so that you use it now. No, it's like building a rocket, okay, without having the technology, the current technology, but you build it through different other means, like through the power of the mind, for example. And then when you have the technology, you actually drive it, okay? Because that's how things are, right? You create something, and then you spark its life. It's a bit awkward to explain in words, yes, I understand, but it's not a punishment, but it is one of the trade-offs of introspection. Because introspection means you will actually understand your own truths, and your own truths may not necessarily be shared with others. They can be, however, you can share a bit of those, but the point is, sharing these will never hurt, but you have to understand that they won't necessarily apply to everyone. And that is why I always remind people that, hey, follow my truths if you feel like, but do not ever take them for granted. You are here to experience your own truths, not to take mine for granted. Because the problem with most people is that, well, and not only people, with literally every being, conscious related. The point with consciousness is that if you present people or anything with things that they are not ready for, they will most likely freak out, or they most likely will laugh in your face. Like people. People will always follow the trends because they are NPCs, don't forget. And the occultists, okay, the dark ones as people call them, they are nothing else than the developers, okay? They are developing the world, but they are developing the world for the NPCs. Once you start awakening, you will see that everything is just a spectacle, just like I am seeing that. Everything is just a spectacle. I see around people who simply almost piss their pants. Oh my god, the end of the world. What's the problem? What's the rush? You're gonna die anyway, so one way or another you're still gonna die, okay? Like, let's hope that at the moment of your death you will leave your body in as little trauma as possible. Like, you will have as little of a traumatic death as possible. But given the fact that people have so much fear and they, inflict so much pain upon themselves throughout their whole life, their death cannot necessarily be, as simple. That is why these NPCs will require a long time before they can actually reincarnate, because, the point is, with accumulating a lot of karma, you have also a more thicker, or let's call it a denser body. And after that facet of consciousness, because I don't believe in souls, and souls are nothing else than a human construct, the point about this is these beings, when they become discarnate, they can actually be a bit more perceptible to others, okay? That is what can be identified as the black people that you see or may see when it comes to astral paralysis or sleep paralysis, whatever you call it. There are entities who come and they just feed upon your fear. The more you create, the more they will stay around you. But their only importance is to feed upon that energy of fear that you are creating. It is their dinner, okay? Why you are feeling even more fear is that some of your ideas are simply vanquished from yourself, and those ideas are manifesting that fear because each idea in the end is a conscious thought, and any thought that is not fulfilled, any idea that is not fulfilled will always seek to become pure again, that is, dissolve entirely and become one with creation itself, which is nothingness. And the point of these beings is, unfortunately, you're feeding them more and more, and they become slightly more and more conscious, so they actually start feeding their own selves, and they also are created in low vibration, so they exist in an idea of, limitedness and survival. That is why they will always keep bugging you, because if they no longer feed, they are actually believing that they will die and they will fear that death. That is why your fear of death is not something that belongs to you. No animal fears death unless it's gonna be traumatic or something, but that is experiential and specific to the physical body only, because that is how it was created. So the point about the Matrix is it is part of the universe, okay? It is part of the universe because there are different units in this world. There are units who evolve and there are units who prevent. Now this prevention is what can be called entropy in a way. It is the natural tendency of things to go chaotic. Now chaos is another form of evolution. We call it bad because, well, there is no such thing as good or bad anyways. It's just made up things and you've been programmed to believe that something is good, something is bad. Now the point about this is very simple. There is nothing bad. Entropy is something we call bad because it doesn't suit our own needs. It doesn't suit the persona, okay, the actor that we have created in here, right? The personality that we are identifying ourselves with, denying our greaterness, okay? We are much greater than this physicality, but the point is, it takes a long time to actually realize this, right? And this entropy is always something that pulls development, okay? It pulls development down because Everything will always develop at the right pace at the right time. That is why I may keep telling people you are doing the best you can at the right pace for you, because you cannot rush things. Irrespective of how much you rush things, you will not manage to, because nothing ever happens in this universe without its approval. That is the point. Everything is just a mini lesson, everything is a karmic debt repayment, more or less, unless you're actually making more karma, so inflicting pain and troubles on yourself and worrying about others. And worrying and fear actually attract a lot of karma, because through those you manifest a lot of ideas that, well, it's like begging the universe for those things to happen, and you are also paying extra emotion to that, which is another attractor, as well as imagery, because imagery is the language of the universe. And then you're not even grateful to the universe that those things ain't happening. Okay, that's one point. Now, to move even further, the point is very simple. This matrix has been designed by entities that most likely are not of human origin, and with greater technology they have learned how to embody human bodies, okay? And some of them don't even do that. But you have to understand that these beings, okay, they have their own needs. They have their own jobs to do. You don't have to view them as someone who wants to destroy you. Yes, indeed, they have been designed by consciousness to be severed, to exist beyond consciousness, okay, and the idea of unitedness, because that's the way towards unitedness. You are not born united with something, okay? You are born separate, because that's how the body exists. In this physical world, you are separate from everyone else, okay? Everyone is separate, everyone is there on their own account. We are here in this world to be our own saviors. No one is ever gonna come in this society to save you, okay? So the point is, in this world, everyone is separate. But the point is, we are all united at higher dimensions. But in this world, we are just physical beings who are all independent one from the other. Now, it doesn't mean we should be living independently. We should be socializing as much as possible, because socializing seems to become a kind of an extinct situation, okay? And it's quite problematic, I could say. The next generations will probably be somewhat more autistic, but through that autism, that is also a great psychological opening that is available. And in order to experience through that, again, some people need to go through a lot of traumas, and they have definitely suffered in previous lives when they opened their third eye before others, and they had visions and they were like butchered and slaughtered, crucified, burnt alive, and whatever, because so many of these senses may may only be acquired through a certain amount of experience, and experience is also gained through pain and through pleasure, because life itself, by its definition, should be a pleasure, okay? But again, through the portals of consciousness, there are all sorts of ideas, from pain to pleasure. It's not much of a great way. The matrix has been created as a design system, okay? It's a system in which we have been brought so that we experience our own truths. It's just like a VR game in which we are playing things. When you go into a game, you literally forget about the other world, because your awareness shifts completely to that. It's basically living a different life. In that game, you have a persona, because you have a different body, you have a certain reputation that you have built most likely, and, well, the point is, you're gonna build as many of these illusions as possible, because personality and the idea of, identity and reputation, they're all just concepts. These concepts were meant to get you stuck in this universe, okay? And once you are stuck in this universe and focusing entirely on your present self, that is when you actually become more and more self-centered. It is the lowest vibration possible of self-centeredness, because when you become fully centered on yourself, and at a certain time, let's say the most egotistical, that's when you start actually becoming starting to get awakened, because when you become fully egotistical, you have reached a pinpoint of your life, a pinnacle, let's say, to a certain level. From there you will start expanding, and you will start slowly and surely through different lives, you will start realizing the importance of life. And then life and everything else around you becomes more and more precious as you gain more and more spiritual wisdom, and more knowledge, and expand your consciousness. That is how some of the greatest beings on this planet have been. They have experienced life through all possible aspects that this planet, this world, can portray. So the Matrix has been designed for these beings to have a lot of power through which they actually guide us. Yes, it might sound way more fuzzy than you would expect, but the purpose of these beings is to guide us. Yes, sure, they might also get lost in the power, because power indeed may corrupt, but it's not power that corrupts, it's your will to do much more that corrupts. And power is just an excuse, because you're going to use it to attain that goal, which is to always gain more than you initially settled for. Like so many people actually live in this premise that it's never good enough, it's never enough. So the point about these societies, they will always use, let's say, occult technology, okay, because occult means nothing else than a technology. Telepathy is an occult technology. It is the ability to send thoughts consciously from one person to another, and it was used in the medieval and ancient times. Now it's become more and more absent in a way, because it's absent from people's minds, not from reality. But people have been lowered to such a low vibration because, well, that's how you actually gain control over yourself. By going to the lowest possible aspects of yourself, you'll realize that you can no longer fall from there. You have to understand that life is nothing else than falling through a pit, and life in itself is a pit that doesn't have a bottom, because a pit that has a bottom is a problem, because you'll smash yourself against the bottom and you will die. If the pit is bottomless, you'll simply fall. That's how life should simply be experienced. Just fall and trust the process. And this is what these beings actually are doing. They are creating all these events, all these ideas through superpowers that they have of, clairaudience, claircognizance. They can predict things. And why and how they can do that is because they are capable of reading the code of the universe. When this universe was created, much like everyone else, its history and its possibilities of histories were encrusted into it. And whoever is capable of understanding that history, they simply can understand what things can go like. And when you know that things can go in, let's say, only 1,000 ways out of the billions of possible imaginable paths, then using triangulation and mathematics and different occult processes, we can finally understand how certain things work. And of course, things will only develop in this world based on your actions as well. And throughout time, if humanity hasn't been led from behind by beings that would guide us through consciousness, because all this is just as my game's title suggests, it is nothing else than a journey through consciousness, and it is a journey through consciousness indeed. Everything that happened in this world happened both for them, for these beings to sustain themselves, because they also need to exist, and it also happened for us to acquire spiritual age. Okay, as a race we always acquire spiritual age because we always need that. And the more spiritual age and wisdom we acquire, even as a race, through the Akashic records, the wiser we become as a race and the greater we become. So many people only focus on the negative part, but never forget, most of the people are just NPCs. When you enter a game, you never mess with the NPCs because they are just NPCs. There is nothing specific about them. They just have their own coding. So leave them to their coding. You have your own code to explore. And I assure you, just like those bots, your coding is immense. It is vast, unending, okay? Limitless, boundless, whatever way you want to call it. It is the same as the other people, okay? The people who are playing the roles of NPCs, because they are still too fresh. They are too young to experience greater things. Or who knows, maybe some of them are great saints that you call upon, and they want to simply experience life through a lower prism. They want to see how life is. Because unless you have the specific body required to experience a certain dimension, you will not be able to experience that dimension of life, because you cannot experience something if you don't have a body that is specifically suited for that. Just like in video games, you cannot explore the game without the specific body. In your dreams, you cannot see what you perceive and, get in contact with what you perceive with senses beyond these five, and you cannot do that without your other dimensional bodies and some of the bodies that the mind creates. So what I want you to understand is that the matrix doesn't have anything to do with you. The matrix doesn't have to do anything bad towards you. Everything happens for you, not to you. You have to simply ditch this idea that the Illuminati or whatever other strange society wants to do to you, because up to a certain point there is not something true in it. Okay, these beings also are bound to certain rules. Okay, they might lose themselves and they might do more than they want, and to a certain extent it is true. If they want to exterminate the whole human race, there is a reality for that, and there are many realities in which they lose because their purpose is needed up to a certain point. You see, they live a parasitic life on any race because that is their purpose. The purpose of the parasite is to be authentic. It is serving its code. That is what it's doing. It is authentic. It is doing what it was designed to do. And its role is to remind you that spiritually, as a race or as an individual, you have things you haven't attended to. Spiritual parasites, mental parasites, psychic parasites, physical parasites, okay, biological parasites, only exist in there because your reality allows them. They only exploit the possibility to come in because they don't come in by their own accord. You have to understand that through what we eat, through each and every day, we have parasites in ourselves. We ingest them from the air, from food at times, and the body simply diminishes them because it is not their time. When a parasite's time is indeed because you have something in your body that is feeding them, it is acquiring them, it is allowing them to exist in there. That is why, as a society, as of existence, as of a consciousness, because we are a consciousness, we allow these beings to exist because we haven't developed ourselves enough, and their purpose is still to guide us. Once we finally stretch into the fourth dimension and we start embracing unity more and more, their purpose will be much more potent, and they will simply have to flee because they will have to find other civilizations that are simply growing and help them evolve towards consciousness, because they are part of consciousness in the end as well. They live in a way that's a bit severed from consciousness because through their great powers they have to be at a certain low vibration that they cannot experience the traumas and things that they do to people. To four-dimensional and five-dimensional beings, that is very traumatic, and it is very painful, and that is most likely one reason why they rarely come in here. This vibration is so low that it actually drains them, but at the same time their high vibration is so stable and strong that it can actually cause ripples in our world, because it's that obvious. When something is more stable than something else, it is gonna influence everything around, just like black holes. They are authentic to their own coding, and they are so stable that everything around themselves simply is shaken from the boundaries of their existence, right? And the purpose of the parasite in the end is nothing else than to remind you of your own sovereignty. Where is your sovereignty? Because as long as I live there as a parasite, right? As long as I live within you as a parasite, I'm reminding you that you're not sovereign enough. That is why vampiric people, well, they are nothing else than authentic people. They are just NPCs that simply prey on the bots, okay? On other bots in between themselves, because hey, they also have such coding, but they usually prey on the players because that's what they do. It's exactly like in video games. You encounter a hostile creature, but that is just a piece of coding. It has just a small conditional. If it detects player, then become aggressive. Switch from idle stance to aggressive stance. It's just a simple state machine, and they just engage you. It's as simple as that, like literally anyone can code that. Of course, the greater intricacies, how they use their skills, how they prioritize, threat levels and other things, yes, those are more intricate indeed. But you have to understand that through video games I have understood most of the world, because I have a bad, well, I can't call it a bad habit, but I have a habit of breaking things naturally to the smallest, minutest of details. Now hopefully this video was eye-opening, hopefully you liked it, hopefully you like the type of content that I'm creating. Feel free to like and subscribe if you do. As usual, you are loved and appreciated. Feel free to share the things that I'm giving to you. Also reference people to my channel as well, so that we together can actually, help the awareness of people increase, and that of the players, because the NPCs may not yet be ready. And well, until next time, take great care of yourself, love yourselves and the people around you that you call dear. You are loved and appreciated. Ferenjan Board signing out.